Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Miss Montalbano. Welcome to all of you tonight. Thank you for coming to this session. We are recording the session so that we can post it on our website for any families that were not able to be here tonight. And just as a reminder, again, I am Miss Montalbano, the principal at Grady. I have here with me tonight a number of Grady staff members, including Miss Matone, our parent coordinator, Miss Lightsey, one of our assistant principals. We have a number of other staff members as well, if any of them want to wave. All right, great. Mr. Hirsch. Okay, good. Excellent. Okay, so what we're going to do is I have a PowerPoint that I'm going to share. It has a lot of information on it. It may be too much information. Your head might be ready to explode by the time I'm done tonight. But please feel free. We want to try to utilize the chat to ask questions. But if anybody needs to ask a question, we could certainly unmute you and have you ask the question that way as well. Once I go into my PowerPoint, I can't really see the chat, so I'll stop periodically to ask some of my staff members to let me know if there are questions in the chat. And before I start, I just want everybody to know that some of the information that I'm sharing might be, is tentative and is subject to change based on state district approval and any new policies and procedures that are put forth by the city or the state. So what we're sharing with you tonight is the most up-to-date information that we have, and it could change, but we want to make sure you're as best informed as possible. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And again, if there are questions, please put them in the chat and I'll stop periodically to answer them. Okay, I'm going to pull my PowerPoint up. I just have to move my thing out of the way so that I can start my PowerPoint. Okay. All right, does everybody see, Miss Lightsey, Miss Matone, can you see my PowerPoint?
It's perfect, looks good.
Okay. I'm just moving my little pictures around so that I can see my PowerPoint because my pictures are right in front of it. Okay. All right, so welcome. This is our welcome back reopening 2020 parent information session. And welcome families once again. Thank you for being here tonight and for giving us your time to share what we know right now about our reopening plans for the 2021 school year. Oh, sorry. Okay, so tonight I'm going to cover a number of pieces of information, including our tentative blended learning model that we'll be using. I will share some information about building space, building staffing. I will clarify some information about family choice for opting into remote and blended learning. I will address some issues regarding students with IEPs. I will address in some instructional issues. We did not have very much instructional information at the last meeting. We have a little bit more tonight, and a lot of it is tentative and a lot more is forthcoming, but I am able to share a little more of our instructional vision with you tonight than we were able to share at our last meeting. I have a tentative timeline that the city has put forth for the reopening itself and what is going to be happening behind the scenes during that timeline. I have some critical health and safety information that I want to share with you, as well as I would like to clarify the city's testing and tracing policy for COVID-19. What you see on the screen right now is the tentative blending learning model that we have submitted for Grady High School. This is Model 3. It's a 6-day rotation where students will attend school 1 to 2 days per week, depending on the rotation. What you'll see, you'll notice there are two models. There's 3A and 3B. I have put a rectangle around 3B to indicate that 3B is the model that we'll be utilizing. It is a 6-day cycle and students will be broken up into 3 cohorts. I will speak more after about what those cohorts are going to look like. And students will attend school for 2 days in person, and then they will attend school remotely for 4 days. And then they will return again for 2 days and continue that cycle of 2 days in person, 4 days remote, while the other groups cycle in and out of in-person and remote instruction. So it's a 6-day rotation. So keep that in mind as I go through my presentation, because when I talk about instruction, I also do make reference to it being a 6-day rotation. So we're thinking of our week more along the lines of 6 days versus what we used to with 5 days, 6-day rotation. Ms. Matone, are there any questions so far? You're muted, Ms. Matone.
I was texting the parents back. Who's texting?
I just saw the text also. They want the link to the meeting, right? Okay.
Okay.
There's no question, Stacey. I got it.
Okay.
Stacey, I got it.
Sorry.
There aren't any questions.
No problem. Okay. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. And just to reiterate again, we're looking at right now a 6-day rotation where students attend learning in school for 2 days, and then they go on 4 days of remote learning, and then the cycle starts over again. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about space. Currently, the building has enough space to accommodate students spread across 3 cohorts. So what that means is we would be taking the whole school population and we would be breaking it up into 3 groups, groups being cohorts. Tentatively right now, we're looking at 9th grade being its own cohort, 10th grade being its own cohort, and 11th and 12th grade being a combined cohort. This, of course, is going to be contingent upon staffing and also the number of families who choose remote learning, which I will discuss further because we do have some data on that at this point. So let me talk a little bit about staffing. As of today, we do expect to be somewhat short-staffed in various areas, including all in-person learning areas, which means we might be somewhat short-staffed in every subject, including guidance, special ed, and some CTE, also support staff and paraprofessionals. So when I say short-staffed, what that means is that some staff will be receiving accommodations to work remotely due to health conditions. So I certainly can't share who those staff members are because that would be a violation of their privacy. But I do need you to know that we do have a number of staff members right now who will be working remotely, which could potentially cause us to be short-staffed in school. And right now that staffing goes across all areas. I don't expect at this point there are going to be too many more changes to that. There hasn't been any changes to it in over a week. And most staff members who are anticipating that they fall into this category have already notified me, so I don't think there will be too many changes at this point. However, if staffing does become a bigger issue than what it is right now, the model that I shared with you where we would be having 3 cohorts could potentially have to switch to more than 3 cohorts because I would need to have enough staff in the building in order to accommodate the number of students. So as it stands right now, we have enough space and staffing to accommodate the 3 cohort model that I showed you in the last slide. We are also in the process of seeking qualified long-term subs to cover teachers who are not returning to the building. So that who we are able to hire in that respect also would impact the model. Why it never lets me do that. Okay. So the family choice.
Sarah, you have a couple of questions.
Oh, great. Okay. Please go ahead.
So one question was from John. I clarified that. He asked, are we in school for 2 days and remote for 4? And I told him in school for 2 and remote for 3, actually.
No,
the other
4.
one was
No, it's 2.
Jeremiah.
No, Miss Lightsey, it's 2 and 4. He's right.
In school for 2 and remote for 4?
4, right, because when two groups, right, when one group is in school for 2 days, right, then they go remote while the other 2 groups come for 2 days each. Right, so group A, I'll go back to the model quickly just to be sure. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, just to look back at the model, when group A comes to school on Monday and Tuesday, right, they would go home Wednesday and Thursday while group B comes, and they would still be home Friday and Monday when group C comes, and then they would come back on Tuesday, Wednesday, while the other groups are all remote. So John is right, it's 2 days in person, 4 days remote. It's a 6-day rotation. So over the course of 6 days, you're in person for 2 days, remote for 4. Okay. Ms.
Yep.
Lighty, go ahead. Any questions?
Mr. Torres, did we answer your question? I see.
This is Mrs.
The question
Torres.
was,
Yes.
oh, Mrs. Torres. Okay, okay.
Hi, Ms.
Both of
Torres.
I think, yes, so freshmen go on freshman days, sophomore goes on sophomore days, juniors and seniors on junior senior days, correct?
Yes, and I'm actually going to specify that even further a couple slides in because I have up-to-date numbers of how many students that looks like right now and what that would look like actually physically with their program and the courses that they're going to take. So I'm going to go more in depth into that a little bit later on.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Isaac's asked, are school times the same as before?
Yeah, we don't have an answer to the school times yet. There are certain things we're still waiting on from the Department of Ed, and everything around timing, teaching, timing and teaching is all we're waiting on that.
And then someone said, is there, like,
Say that one more time, Ms. Lighty, you broke up.
when does school start?
So we're not exactly sure when school starts yet. We don't have the actual, when does school start, meaning the date. We're aiming for September 10th. That's the Department of Ed's aim date. If the question was when does school start, what time of the day, that we don't have an answer to yet. We do know that we're aiming to have at least a 5-hour instructional day according to Department of Ed regulations, but we don't have a full answer to that yet. That's when I talk about the timeline, you'll have a better idea of when we're going to know that.
And someone else says they have a couple of questions about kids with IEPs, but I know we didn't get to that portion yet.
So we're going to get to that. Okay, great. So, and as of today, the data that I'm sharing with you is as of just this afternoon. The Family Learning Preference Survey closed on August 7th, 2020. It really never closes, even though it closed on August 7th, because parents are able to select remote learning at any time. But the first closing date for us to get a sense of who's coming back and who's not was August 7th. So as of today, we have 184 families selecting 100% remote learning, 96 families selected blended learning, and 268 unanswered surveys. Now, they may not necessarily be unanswered surveys because the Department of Ed said that if families were requesting the default of blended learning, that they didn't have to respond to the survey. But we just want to make sure that some families did reach out to us and say that they had difficulties accessing the survey and they weren't able to get it. So we're going to be sending out some phone calls over the next couple of days just to confirm with the unanswered surveys that the families did in fact want blended learning versus remote learning. Today we had 26 families that were unable to access the survey and did want remote learning. So that's really important for us to know, because how we break up the cohorts is really dependent on how many students are going to be in the building. So if you get some phone calls over the next couple of days, that's why you'll be getting them. Also note that parents can opt into remote learning at any time for any reason, and parents will also be able to opt into blended learning in November. So if you've chosen remote learning now and November comes and things are looking good and you feel like you're more comfortable sending your child back to school at that point, we'll have a process to get you back in there and to probably reconfigure our cohorts in some way to accommodate additional students who are coming in at that point. Also, families who opt for 100% remote learning should know that meals will still be available at the home school and also any school that's close to your home in your neighborhood. So school food is available for all families, regardless of their decision to select blended learning or remote learning, and also on the remote learning days for families who select blended learning. Ms. Lighty, any questions?
Yes, so what support resources are available to students who work 100% remotely, i.e. tutor, homework helplines, websites, etc.?
Okay, I'm going to talk more about that when we get into the instructional piece. And I should say before I get to that point, we don't have a full answer on that yet. The key thing that we're waiting on right now from the Department of Education is their negotiations with the UFT. I'm going to be very honest about that. That's what we're waiting on right now. So what the actual teaching will look like and what the teacher responsibilities will be is all contingent on the negotiations that the Department of Ed is making with the UFT right now. So a lot of the questions that parents have about what teachers will be doing, and a lot of the questions teachers have about what they will be doing, and a lot of questions students have about what their teachers will be doing, have not been answered as of yet. but they will be. And as they are answered, I will continue to share that information. But I will be able to address some of that in the instructional slides that I have coming up.
Will the grading process be the same for all students, remote or blended?
As far as we know right now, the Department of Ed hasn't released the grading policy, but they have told us that the expectation is that grading and curriculum is expected to be the same for students working remotely and students in school, which I'm also going to address in my later slides.
Will there be another date to select blended learning after November?
Yes. So there will be a certain dates throughout the course of the school year. We're being told that there are going to be 4 dates quarterly to opt back into blended learning. I would expect that the date after November would probably be sometime in January, which would make sense along the lines of the second semester starting, the beginning, end of January, beginning of February. And I would say probably after that, we would be thinking about sometime in March or April. That would make the most sense to me. But right now we know for sure there's going to be a date in November. And I would bet just about anything that the second cycle would be sometime around the end of January when Regents traditionally take place. So yes, there will be continued opportunities to opt back into blended learning. And as I stated at our last meeting, I am always willing to work with families as long as whatever we have going on in the building is amenable to that. So, please don't ever feel that you can't contact us and let us know that situations have changed. And of course, if we could make it work, we always will. Ms. Lighty?
Okay, Mr. Pierre, I have you for a second. So I'm going to come to you right after Ms. Vanessa. Is there a date for when we will get our schedules or classes?
I'm going to have a timeline that I'm going to share a little bit later in the presentation, yes.
What is in place for the social and emotional learning for our children? COVID-19 has had a horrible impact around the world. Will there be social workers or healthcare workers for students to help them to adjust to returning back to school?
Yes, so we have been told, we haven't received the full set of information yet, but we have been told that a very specific part of the curriculum for September and October will focus around social emotional learning, and that students will engage in social emotional learning lessons basically every day at some point during those 2 months. Grady High School also has 2 social workers, one part-time, one full-time, in addition to our 2 guidance counselors and a CBO with 4 licensed therapists and psychologists. So we absolutely will have a very comprehensive reentry plan around the social emotional learning of our students. That's very, very critical. And that will happen whether it is for remote students or blended learning students. There will be social emotional learning and opportunities for counseling as needed for all students. Absolutely.
Okay. Will the seniors have activities like senior trips, prom, graduation, etc.?
So as of right now, I'm going to have to say that's probably a no. But then again, we're still a long way from the end of the school year, right? We barely even started the school year. So if the senior trip and the prom took place in September, October, November, or December, I would say that's a no for sure. We know that PSAL sports have been canceled at least through the fall season. And certainly if things change for the spring and we are able to have senior trips and proms and things like that, of course we will. But as of right now, there's definitely none of those things currently being planned.
Victor, Pierre, you have your hand up. You can ask your question.
Sure. Are you muted, Mr. Pierre? Is he muted?
Yeah, I'm unmuted now. Sorry.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Sometimes we might have had you muted. Don't, Ms. Pierre. How are you?
It's okay. My question is that because my son is a new freshman, right? They had taken her the laptops back. So how do I get the new one? Because I did a message, Miss Matone, I believe.
Okay.
And I didn't get response on that, whether it was gonna come from the school or the DOE. I don't know.
So we have, what we did last year for students on remote learning is we gave out every device that we had, and we then helped families get the Department of Ed devices. We will be working on getting the devices back, obviously only from our seniors at this point, because everybody else is going to continue needing a device. And we've also purchased some new devices. So we're going to go by the same situation. We'll give our devices out until we have none left, and then we will help families get Department of Ed devices. However, Ms. Matone can reach out to you, and she can help you get a device now. Like, we don't have to wait.
I think the freshmen, we just have to wait until we have their information on pupil path, and that's why I was having trouble the last time. But I could try again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that right away. That's no problem. We want to make sure everybody has their devices. That's for sure.
With the blended family, is it possible for the parents to get a tour on how you guys set it up for the COVID situation? Because my biggest concern is that, you know, how kids don't listen. I'm being like 20 times reminding my son when I'm with him outside, put on your mask, put on your mask. So I do not feel safe in a school setting with him. That I'm not saying the teacher's not gonna help him put it back on, but it's just that with him personally getting, you know, forgetful and all that. Is it possible to get a virtual tour of like how you guys set up the distancing, if you guys are doing like a glass or something?
So I am going to talk, yes, I'm going to definitely talk a little bit about that, but that's going to be the last thing because I know how important that is, and I'm going to have a million questions about it. So I actually put that part at the end of the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
I know that's the most important thing to everybody. They want to hear about everything, but that's the most, and of course, rightfully so. So yes, I'm going to talk about some of the policies and procedures that we're going to have in place in the building to try to ensure that everybody is safe. Ms. Lightsey?
That was one of the reasons why I signed up for 100% learning online, because I do not know how this is going to play out. Because he has an underlying condition, okay. I do not want him to be exposed to anything at this point. You understand? So that's my main concern, because he's already fragile. You don't want him in a setting that's not safe.
Yeah, I think a lot of parents feel the same way that you do. Certainly.
Okay, so we have a whole bunch of questions. And to make sure I didn't miss anyone. Cohorts got that. Okay, so what do you do? What do you personally recommend based on the look of things? 100% remote or blend seems as if it will be a smooth run.
So I'm going to say that we're putting everything in place that we need to put in place to run a blended learning program as smoothly as possible. I would not make a recommendation because every family situation is different. And after you hear what I have to present and to continue to present between now and September, you will make the best decision that's for your family. And I can assure you that whatever system we have in place will support whether you choose fully remote learning or blended learning. And whatever families choose, we're going to make sure that we run a meaningful program for both. Okay, so I don't want to, I would be remiss if I was to make that decision for you, because only you know what's best for your family. I can promise you that on our end, we're going to put the program together in the best way possible for both scenarios.
Will there be temperature checks, hand sanitizer, and mask available for students?
The answer to that is all yes, but I'm going to get to that at a later slide.
Let's see. Okay, so some people were asking about devices. Someone said the device had been turned off. They're assuming they'll be turned on once again once they return to school. So
should not have been turned off, but I'm going to make a note of that.
Ms. Matone, yep, go ahead. Go ahead,
I just gave everybody my email and my Google number if they have any questions about the iPad, and this way we could get them set up with the iPad survey.
Yeah, the devices should not have been shut off. So if you're having a problem with your device, you can reach out to Ms. Matone. She put her information in the chat and she can look into that for you.
IEP classes, how many kids will you have in a class?
I'm going to get to that.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay. What will the class capacity be, and how will it be in accordance with social distancing?
I'm going to get to that also.
The email for blended remote learning said that if you do not need to reply to go for blended learning, is that true, or do I still have to do the survey?
No, that's true. That's true. We just want to make sure that the parents we had some parents who said they were unable to access the survey and they wanted remote learning. So that's the only reason we're checking. If you wanted blended learning and that's what you fill out the survey, that's fine. That's what the directions told you to do.
Okay, we talked about how many kids, we're going to come back to how many kids in a
Come
class.
back to that, yes.
Do we get a schedule based on what days we have to be in school and what time we stay home or for remote?
Get into that later.
There was an email to update the devices. So someone shared that there was an email to update devices. Yes,
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start continuing through the presentation.
going.
A lot of those questions are going to be answered. And I'll stop maybe 2 or 3 slides in and then we'll take it from there. Okay. All right. So just a couple of very, very brief points about students with IEPs to assure you that the goal is to meet all IEP mandates, both in person and remotely. That means that students who are in self-contained classes will remain in self-contained classes, whether they are remote or blended learning. As students who are in ICT classes, we intend on grouping them together in the cohorts. We're not sure what the story is going to be with 2 teachers in the classroom yet, because we were told that that's going to be in the instructional guidelines that are sent out. But I will tell you that they will be together and have access to a special ed teacher. And our IEP meetings will continue to be held as scheduled. All IEPs will remain up to date. The meetings will be held virtually as per DOE mandates, but they will all be held on time and they will be done as needed to be done. All related service counseling will continue to happen. Due to current staffing, most of the related service counseling will be held virtually. So when I say virtually, I mean that the related service counseling will most likely be scheduled on the days that the students are learning remotely so that they can be held during that time. It's not like we're going to take students out for related service during their in-person learning and have them do virtual counseling. We would schedule it during their remote learning times. So I want to talk a little bit about instructional goals. I think this is going to cover some of the questions that you had. Our instructional goals are to prevent learning loss, to accelerate learning, to prioritize learning standards, and to prioritize student needs. Regardless of a new and unique instructional plan, we still maintain the same instructional goals, which are to prevent learning loss of our students and to continue accelerating their learning according to their needs. So as I stated earlier, students will attend in-person learning according to their grade cohort by year, not by credits in most cases. So what I mean by that is that for freshman parents, this doesn't really impact you very much. Well, it does, because 9th grade students are 9th grade students. They are coming for their first year and they are not behind in any way. They're starting on track. But there might be students in school, let's say, who are going into their 2nd year or their 3rd year, but still have 9th grade credits. They will not be cohorted with 9th grade students. Okay, we will cohort the students based on their cohort year, meaning if it is your first year in high school, you will be with everybody else whose first year of high school it is. If it's your 2nd year of high school, even if you don't have enough credits to be a 10th grader, you will be cohorted with all other students who are in their 2nd year of high school. And the same for 11th and 12th grade and 12th grade holdovers. There might be a possibility that you'll notice in the 10th grade cohort, we have a little more space than the others because of the selections of remote learning from the parent survey. We currently have 134 students scheduled for blended learning in the 9th grade. So what that would kind of look like is we would look at those 134 students and we would begin to group them. And we would group them in a number of ways. We would group them based on their IEPs, whether they're L's, they need L support, if they're in an accelerated track, and we would create groups within that group and program the students in that way. So 134 students, I'm thinking would probably be somewhere along the lines of 10 to 12 groups, because we are looking to not have more than 12 students in any classroom. I don't even think it will be 12, it will be closer to 10. And I know that was a question that we had before. Our classrooms are definitely large enough to accommodate 12 students, but we're trying to keep it between 10 and 12 and no more than that. And grouped within the specific needs of students. So self-contained students would be grouped together, ICT students would be grouped together in the same way that they normally are. Accelerated students would be grouped together so that we're able to block the programming in a way that gives them all of their courses. Because again, what I said earlier is that I wanted to, I'm just gonna pop back up here a second. We want to prevent learning loss. We want to accelerate learning. We don't want to put students in blocks that do not make sense for their instructional needs. Even though this is a different year, we want the year to end with as little learning loss as possible and as much acceleration of learning as possible. So this is what our grade cohorts will look like, according to students being grouped according to grade cohort by year. Meaning if it's my first year of high school, everyone in my group, it's our first year of high school. If it's my second year of high school, even if I'm a holdover, my group is everybody in their second year of high school. Our ACES students, if there are any ACES parents in the presentation, they will be joining the 10th grade cohort because just sheerly because of the number. There are 98 students currently returning to the building for 10th grade. And there are 137 students who comprise 11th grade, 12th grade, and 12th grade holdovers. Also, if space allows, I might be able to put a holdover in a different cohort. So let's say, for example, I have a 12th grader, a fourth year student who is really truly only has the classes and credits of a 10th grader. Looks like I could probably have enough room to individualize for that student. But the goal is to keep the groups as uniform as possible within their grade cohort so that the classes they take continue to be meaningful and continue to accelerate their learning towards graduation. Ms. Lighty, any questions that are specific to the cohorting of students by year and not by credits?
You have, just for clarification, someone said their son is coming into the school as a 10th grader,
Okay.
but it's his first year at Grady. So will he be in the 10th grade?
No, he would be in the 10th grade, yes, because that's his cohort year, even though he's starting 9th grade somewhere else.
This one is a little more of the instruction and the variation. So will students from Grady be able to, will still be able to take classes from other schools like calculus, physics, like before?
So I'm gonna pin that question and not answer it yet because I'm not sure. I'm gonna say that would be a yes, but we've had conversations with Rachel Carson and Lincoln because that's usually where we do that. And if we do that, which we probably will, it would most likely be virtual. But don't hold me to that yet. It's on the table as an important conversation that we're having for accelerated students, but we don't have enough students to offer it in person right now or enough staffing, as we normally never do, which is why we offer it in other schools. So I've already had those conversations with Lincoln and Rachel Carson, and if we do offer those, they would most likely be virtual.
There are two questions, but they are not linked to this slide.
So tell me what they are real quick, and if
one is about the cleaning of the school. I think you can answer that.
Definitely going to get to that. Yes.
Okay, so we'll get to that. And then the other one, it was about summer school, students with summer school. When will they?
Okay,
the grades and
that now.
Yeah. Okay.
They want to know the grades be done.
When will summer school students find out if they pass or also have enough to be exempt from the algebra regents, or I would say any of the regents, to kind of extend that?
The summer school grades are going to be coming in on Friday afternoon of this week. And then what will happen is we have to review them all for the regents exemptions, and that's going to take most of the following week. So I'm going to say, if I'm looking at my calendar, some's probably not until the week of August, at least the week of August 25th. Okay, we would be looking at for that. The grades may be done before that, but the Regents exemptions won't be done until at least August 25th. Okay, I'm gonna miss.
That's it.
Go ahead. I'm gonna move on with
That's
this.
it. We can move on. Mhm.
Oh, great. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about instruction. So bringing us back to our instructional goals, where we want to prevent learning loss, accelerate learning, prioritize learning standards, and prioritize student needs. We are aiming to offer as many of our regular classes that we usually offer as possible within the time constraints that we have of blended learning. So ninth grade students will attend school 2 days a week in person. These are for blended learning students, and 4 days remotely, or they will attend every day remotely, depending on what parents chose. But they will take English, global, living environment, algebra, CTE, phys ed, and lunch. I know that some students already passed algebra and living environment. They will take the classes that they need. There will be accommodations for accelerated students. But this is what a normal ninth grade program looks like. And it is our goal to prioritize our programs so that our students continue to get the same courses that they would get if we were in a traditional 5-day-a-week regular normal school year. Okay, so the goal is that we would continue to offer all subjects that we normally offer. Our 10th grade students who are doing blended learning attend school 2 days a week in person and 4 days remotely. If they're remote, they would be, again, attending all days remotely. They will take English, global, earth science, algebra, or geometry, depending on their track, CTE, phys ed, and lunch. I don't know exactly what phys ed and lunch are going to look like right now, so if anybody puts that question in the chat, that's the answer already. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to look. All I know is that I am committed to trying to make sure that they exist somewhere in the program. Right now, it looks at 11th grade students who are working blended would take 2 days a week in person and 4 days remotely, and remote students would be remote every day. They will take English, US history, chemistry. The math courses could be various because by the time we reach junior year, students could be in various places. CTE, phys ed, and lunch. 12th grade students, we're looking to have them as well attend 2 days a week in person, or and 4 days remotely, or all remotely. And as of right now, they'll be taking English, government, CTE if they need it, phys ed, Spanish if they need it, and lunch. Accelerated classes like pre-calculus and AP biology, we're looking at offering those remotely if we have enough students who need it. Okay, so as it looks as if 12th grade students have less classes, and what we're looking at right now is only giving them what they need and offering anything extra remotely. As I said, other courses would likely be offered fully remotely, and even some upper grade core subjects could be offered fully remotely depending on staffing. So I'm just going to give an example. I'm not saying this is happening, but let's say I find out next week that, you know, I have no English teachers returning. It could happen. Then the decision would be made to prioritize English in the 9th and 10th grade, and to offer English remotely in 11th and or 12th grade. But I'm not suggesting that's happening yet at this point, but it could. So depending on the staffing that we have, it could turn out that upper grade students could maybe get one additional class remotely versus in person. Ms. Lighty, any questions so far? And again, these are all very tentative plans based on district and state approval.
So someone just asked about lunch and social distancing. You might have missed, but Ms. Montalbano said she is not 100% sure what that will look like.
I will specify what the challenges are right now with lunch, just so that you know. And I always like to be very open and honest, so I'll be happy to share, you know, an experience that I had last week and just the thoughts that are going through my head, because I know they're the same thoughts that are going through your head. Right now, the DOE guidelines suggest that lunch will happen during instruction in the classroom. I know that that's a spot of contingency right now with the UFT and the Department of Ed, because that means that students have to be in the classroom with no masks while they're eating. And I know that that is an issue that both parents and teachers are having right now. So I don't know that an instructional lunch is going to become a reality. The suggestion is that students would take their classes and then take a grab and go lunch at the end of the day. I'm not in love with that either, because I don't think kids can sit for 5 hours without having any lunch break, and just take their lunch to go at the end of the day. I mean, if seniors have a shortened day, they could certainly do that, but I don't really see it that way. So when I was in the building looking at the cafeteria, I mean, we do have a very large cafeteria. We could most likely set it up in a way that, I mean, and this sounds very sad, I know, believe me, in a way that students would sit only 1 or 2 at a table and eat lunch. What I can say is that if it can't be done with social distance, then we would have to default to a grab and go at the end of the day, but I'm trying very hard to make that not be the case. I have to make a decision about what's more sad. Is it more sad to sit alone at the table during lunch, or to sit in the classroom, you know, when you don't have your mask on and the teacher's not happy about that, or to take your lunch at the end of the day and go home? I mean, it's a dilemma. It's a dilemma. And that's where I am right now at that point. So we're not exactly sure what lunch is going to look like, but I can assure you that no child will go hungry at Grady High School, and that we will do our very best to make lunch as socially distant, safe, and meaningful as it possibly can be. Ms. Lightsey?
Someone asked, regions that were supposed to be taken, such as algebra and living environment, will they be taken in the upcoming year, or will they be exempt? Will the exemption cover the mandatory requirements for high school diplomas?
So we don't know the answer to that yet. We know that the June and August regions were canceled and students received exemptions for those. Should the January regions also be canceled, I would imagine that the exemption process would continue to exist and under the same policies that it existed for this current year. And should the June regions for some reason be canceled, I would imagine that the policy would remain the same. And the answer to the question, are the exemptions eligible for graduation? Absolutely. Once a student receives an exemption, that it's as if they took it, passed it, and met their graduation requirements. Ms. Lightsey, should I move?
There's a question just so briefly. It's one of the students asking about locker room. Like, will they be able to get their stuff from locker room and CTE classes?
Yes.
And then the other one
as
was
soon
about,
as we have full access to the building, we will put out some protocols on how you can come to pick things up. Unless you're a blended learning student, you could certainly, we'll make arrangements to have those things picked up when you come back. And if you're a fully remote student, we'll have some sort of procedure in place for you to come and pick up your stuff. Right now, we don't have permission to do that. But as soon as we do, you know, unless it's an emergency, then you can reach out to me, and we make it happen. But as of right now, we're waiting on guidance for that. But of course, we're going back to school, right? As long as the building's open, there'll be a policy in place to pick up your things.
will we have AP exams again? If so, online or in school?
Can't say I know the answer to that yet. That all depends on what the school year brings. Will there be AP exams? I'm sure they will be. Whether or not they'll be online, that I don't know.
You can move on.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we are working on making sure that all self-contained and ICT students are programmed according to their IEP. That means being grouped together so that we can provide instruction that is individualized and specialized to their needs. The cohorts that I described to you, just to kind of go back and show you briefly, we had talked about, I like to use the 9th grade as an example. We have 9th grade, 134 students. You know, let's say there happen to only be 10 of those students who are self-contained, then they can all be in the same block. If there are 15, that's too many, right? I'm not going to have 15 students in the classroom. So we may have to have 2 blocks, but we will create the blocks so that they are specific to the needs of students and their IEPs. Accelerated students might possibly be placed in a different grade cohort to accommodate higher level classes, but that is not a decision that we will make without the input from the parents. Okay, I will not make that decision wholesale. So just to kind of go back up to my other slide, let's say I'm a 9th grade student coming to Grady for the first time, but I already took living environment and algebra, right? It could possibly make sense for me to go into the 10th grade cohort where I can start geometry and take earth science, but that would be a conversation individualized with the family, okay? It might involve additional remote learning. Not really sure how that would look, but we do know that we're gonna have students who come in who are accelerated, and the goal is to be able to create an accelerated block in the grade cohort where that student belongs. But if that becomes an impossibility, we'll have a conversation about, in only very specific circumstances, possibly moving to an older grade cohort to make sure that the courses that they receive are accelerated according to the needs. But that again would be a conversation with the parent. We wouldn't make that decision wholesale. Instruction, this next section, I want to call this my vision, and vision means it's not set in stone, but this is how Ms. Montalbano visualizes that instruction will take place in an environment where some students are in school 2 days a week and learning remotely for 4 days, and some students are learning remotely for 6 days. We are going to revise curriculum to exist in 6-day units. So instruction will be delivered through 6-day units. Teachers will look at their units. Let's say I'm an English teacher, which I am, and let's say I have a unit on poetry that normally takes me 2 weeks. I would revise that, that's 10 days. I would revise that unit into multiple 6-day units so that if I'm doing blended learning, I would be getting 2 of those 6 days in my in-person instruction and the other 4 days remotely with whoever the teacher is who's working remotely. If I am a fully remote student, I would still be getting those same 6 days of instruction, only I would be getting them remotely instead of having 2 of the days in person. So the vision is that whether I'm a fully remote student or a blended learning student, I would be getting the same 6 days of instruction. I would just be getting it differently. I would be getting it only at home, or I'd be getting it both in person and at home. So the goal is that the teachers will revise curriculum to be delivered through 6-day units that I'm just gonna go back up to the very beginning of our presentation so that the 6-day unit works with our 6-day rotation, okay? So the unit starts on the first day of the rotation and it ends on the last day. And when I come back again, I start a new unit and that goes for 6 days. Now, that's in a perfect world. It could, there could be some changes, but the goal is that we need to look at our instruction in a 6-day cycle, in a 6-day rotation. Okay, and again, that's my vision, not anything set in stone, but that's where I would like to go. While we're not quite sure how the remote learning is going to be delivered, we don't know who's delivering it, how it's being delivered. We certainly hope that it's going to be delivered by our teachers. Again, like I said, the main thing we're waiting on right now is all of anything relating to teachers coming from the Department of Ed. We expect to utilize Google Classroom. We've all used it. We all know how to use it. We know how to use it well. And there's absolutely no reason for the teachers to be trained in using something else when they are very proficient and effective in using Google Classroom Live. For those of you who were not Grady students last year, the Grady teachers live taught through Google Classroom every single day, starting from the first day of remote learning through almost the last day of remote learning. And they know how to do it. They know how to do it well. They can differentiate for students with IEPs through the Google Classroom. They know how to team teach and co-teach through the Google Classroom and to offer accelerated courses through Google Classroom. So our expectation is that the remote piece of our learning will take place through Google Classroom. And as I just explained to you in my vision, that the remote learning and the in-person learning will be coordinated and in sync. So that these 6 days, 6-day units will look the same, whether they're in person or remotely, so that every student gets meaningful instruction that prevents learning loss and that accelerates learning even in a difficult situation. In addition to that, we will have access to multiple online instructional programs that students can utilize to supplement their learning asynchronously, meaning that students will have access to a variety of programs that they can use on their own if they want to do additional practice on top of the live teaching that the teachers will be doing with them. So just to give you an example, we would have access to Castle Learning, which is a program that gives students Regents Prep. So even though I would be getting Regents Prep, whether I'm remote learning or blended learning, if I wanted to have additional Regents Prep, I would have access to various online programs that every student will have user accounts for in various different subjects. So in addition to teachers teaching, in addition to remote learning, we will have multiple online instructional programs that students will have accounts for that they can utilize to continue practicing their work. Some of them will be reading programs, things that kids can do in addition to what they would be doing as part of our program. Ms. Lightsey, any instructional questions?
Sorry, hold on. There's a couple of things. So let me go back.
I'm going to be getting into the safety stuff in a little bit.
Okay, so that wasn't it. The question was
next, and then safety.
We did that. We went to that. Sorry. Will remote learning and in-class learning be conducted at the same time by the same teacher for that specific cohort group?
I'm going to say probably not, but we don't have a full answer to that yet. The way the Department of Ed has laid it out for us, which has been very, very unspecific at this point because they're still making those decisions and negotiations, is that every class will technically have two teachers, an in-person teacher and a remote teacher, which makes perfect sense because the in-person teacher is teaching one cohort for 2 days, the next cohort for the next 2 days, and the next cohort for the 2 days after that. So I don't know when that person would be able to also do the remote learning. So if you had to envision it, you would be envisioning two teachers coordinating and teaching that 6-day unit in two different places. Okay, that, you know, they would be teaching the same thing over the course of those 6 days, but some of them would be teaching it remotely and the other one would be teaching it in person. So if I was a blended learning student, I would be getting the same 6-day unit. I would be getting 2 days of in-person learning for that unit and the remaining 4 days remote, same unit. If I was a fully remote student, I would be getting same unit, but all 6 days would be remote. And my guess at this point is that the remote teacher is not going to be the same teacher as the in-person teacher. I'm not quite sure how that they would make that happen. And if they do, more power to them, because I'm not sure how that we could be in. I think maybe this will be the year we learn how to be in two places at one time. Ms. Lightsey?
There's another question that asks, hold on, I'm like answering some of these questions because I know some of the answers. Will you have live tutors available online for remote learning?
As of right now, I'm not really sure about that. What I do know is that there is an expectation that teachers will have office hours and that during those office hours, there would be tutoring involved. We do intend, like we always have tutoring at Grady in person. I'm going to say that if we do after school tutoring like we have done in the past, that it would be virtual.
There's just clarity.
I would like to continue to have that. But it would most likely be virtual.
Sorry, guys. There's clarity in the question just saying, so the self-contained class numbers will likely be lower than 15.
Say that again?
The self-contained class numbers will more than likely be lower than 15, correct?
Yeah, yes, because as of right now, I don't really, I mean, obviously we're going to put the desk in and the custodians are going to measure differently, but to me, I don't think we're going to have more than 12 students in a classroom right now. So they would have to be smaller.
No more questions, you can move on.
Great, okay. All right. CTE is very special, and because we're a CTE school, we want to continue to prioritize having CTE in every student's program. And there have been some CTE guidelines put out. So actually what I'm sharing with you here is some very specific guidelines shared with us by the DOE, some guidelines that they've given us to try to make the CTE classroom a safe place and how to prioritize certain students' needs. So we certainly plan on continuing to have CTE coursework being taught by appropriately certified CTE teachers. As of right now, there are very few CTE courses that will not be able to be taught in person due to teacher accommodations. So we should be okay with that. We have been asked by the DOE to, during the months of September and October, to put emphasis on theory, safety protocols, and career and financial management. And the reason for that is because the CTE teachers need to physically reconfigure their space in order to make the space amenable to individual workstations where students can do hands-on work. And they certainly would not be able to do that between now and September, having not even yet received instructional guidelines from the DOE. So the DOE has asked that which by the way, is what we always do for the first 2 months of CTE instruction, the theory, the safety protocols, and the career and financial management. So this really doesn't change what we normally do anyway. And it makes sense because the teachers, it will be more of a classroom environment versus a hands-on environment, because students need to know their safety protocols and the theory before they can get hands-on. There will be a priority of instruction though for students who are scheduled to earn certifications in the 2021 school year. Any student who is scheduled to any particular course and grade level that's scheduled to earn certifications, even for students who are fully remote, we may try to make some accommodations to have those students in person to complete their certifications. Not exactly sure what that's going to look like yet, but we do want to prioritize students who need certification. And if those certifications require in-person physical hands-on instruction, then we need to put a plan in place for that. So we're not exactly sure how many students are going to fall into that category as of yet, but once we do, that'll be a conversation with the families. There will be full use of PPE in the CTE classrooms, including clear automotive safety glasses at all times. They will be regulation, and when I say automotive, that's not only in the automotive shop, but they're the kinds we use in automotive. We'll be using safety glasses in all of the shops. Teachers will be training students on how to don, that means put on and take off. Put on and take off, this is DOE language, right? Like when any of us ever say don and doff our clothes, but how to put on, how to take off, clean and disinfect and discard PPE as applicable. Okay, that's something teachers will train students to do. The goal is to minimize the number of students at workstations and when possible to utilize individual workstations. So our CTE teachers will be working on reconfiguring their classroom spaces to try to, as much as possible, create a situation where students have individual or socially distant paired in workstations. The DOE has suggested that students at workstations face the same direction. So that's going to be interesting. So usually kids are used to working, think about a shop face to face. So that's not really going to be able to happen right now. And that's going to be part of the reconfiguration of the physical space. The DOE has asked us to train instructors on how to use portable video cameras during lessons. So for example, students might be at their workstations or at their desks, and where in a normal situation, teachers would be like at a table and kids would all be gathered around. That's not socially distant, so we can't really do that. It would be the teacher would still be doing the demonstration and have it set up in a way on a screen that the kids can still watch and listen and ask questions and see physically what's going on. So our CTE teachers already feel like they can do that, so I don't think they're going to need any real training. So they would be in their seats versus standing closely watching demonstrations. These are just some of the things. I mean, the CTE guidelines we got, they're like 50 pages long. And I know if I went through that, you'd all lose your mind. So I pulled just the key areas to give you a sense of the kind of things we're thinking about in the CTE classroom. To continue with that, we're going to try to reduce bi-directional foot traffic. We're going to reduce bi-directional foot traffic in the shops by using tapes and signs with arrows, just kind of like when you go to supermarket now and they put those arrows on the floor, because some of the shops have tight workspaces. So we want to avoid coming face to face with anybody, and we want to all be going in the same direction. So just kind of envision the kitchen, right? We're at a work table, and we want to have a very specific way that we're walking around so that when we get to different stations, we're not on top of each other. The labeling and individualizing of tools, to the extent possible, we'll be doing in some shops. I mean, it's just not feasible to have an individual tool set for every student, because we might have 100 students and we don't have 100 wrenches, and that's not because we can't afford them. It's just not really a reasonable thing that any place would have. Even a fully professional auto shop wouldn't have that. So the teachers are going to the best of their ability, create very specific tool sets that may have to be thoroughly cleaned and disinfected before being utilized by other students. And they'll also be sure that they're frequently sanitizing shared surfaces. And this is not just them, this will be custodians as well. Also, there will be gloves available in the shops for students. Most teachers will probably require the students to wear gloves because they may possibly be sharing objects. Like, let's say, we're sharing a wrench. We might wear gloves so that we don't actually, touch the wrench with our hands with each other. And there'll also be time built in for the sanitation of workstations in between periods. So I'm going to talk about periods in a minute and about passing, because we're not going to do a lot of that, but CTE classes can't take place in an academic classroom. So there has to be some level of moving around because students have to actually go into the CTE rooms in order to take part in the CTE class. Ms. Lighty, any questions about CTE? I thought so.
We do.
I
There's a bunch of questions kids have about clubs. So I don't know if you're going to talk about that later.
Clubs?
They are asking several. Yeah.
Okay.
One question about CTE was, does the school supply safety glasses or do parents have to buy them?
If we have purchased safety glasses but they are on a back order. As long as there is no issue with us getting all the safety glasses we need, we will provide them.
And this isn't CTE, this is a one-off. So I don't think this is going to come up, but they're asking about, will driver's ed be available?
Driver's ed was available during remote learning over the spring. It was done virtually. So I'm going to say that it's very possible that will be happening again. I don't think in person in the car driver's ed is going to be available. It wasn't before.
Do you want to answer the club questions now or later?
Well, I mean, that's a pretty simple answer. As of right now, we haven't received any permission to have in-person clubs. So any types of clubs that we would have would most likely have to be done virtually.
All right. They don't have any responses yet, but I'm sure they will.
Okay. All right. I mean, let me be clear that this first semester is just going to be different from what we've ever been used to before. I mean, I know that we're very used to a Grady where we're like, very touchy-feely and always, hugging and going to clubs and staying after school and doing all the things that we eating candy together. It's just, we have to follow the rules this time around for the protection of each other. And it's going to be hard and we're not going to like it, but we want to be there and we want to have an opportunity to have this time together and to have this in-person learning. So we're going to have to suck it up and follow the rules. It's not going to be easy, as I said, and we're not going to like it, but we're going to work together and we're going to be kind about it. But the reality is that there are just some things that existed before that can't exist right now, that hopefully will exist later, but right now they can't. So if we can manage to get some of those normal things in place virtually, we will, and that I can assure you. All right, so there's a little bit of a time frame, and then I'm going to talk about the safety protocols that I know everybody wants to hear about. So this is the tentative time schedule right now that the Department of Ed has given to us to submit things and to receive feedback from them. So so Friday, I had to do this Friday, which I didn't put on this slide, but this Friday was the Model 3B that I shared with you at the beginning of the presentation. Our blended learning model had to be submitted this Friday. So I already submitted it today. That's done. And what's going to happen is starting on August 21st, the district, starting August 14th, the district's going to start reviewing the program models. They're going to look at our space. They're going to look at a variety of things, and they're going to say, okay, this seems to be feasible for your school. This doesn't. And they're going to let us know at some point. Okay, so starting the week by August 21st, they're supposed to be starting to let us know that our model was approved. So like once I find out Model 3B is approved for Grady, we can take the next step. Like we really can't take the next steps because I don't want to take all the next steps and then they turn around and say, well, Model 3B is not going to work. I do not anticipate that happening, but you never know. The week of August 26th, we've been asked to notify parents of tentative student in-person schedules. Now, in-person schedules does not mean you're like what you're used to with your schedule, like when you get your schedule and you know what period you have English and math. What they are referring to there is being notified of what physical days you would be in school. So we will know by August 26th what group you're in, right? I'm going to bring myself just quickly going to bring us back to that very first slide that we looked at. By that date, I will know if you're group A, right? If you're cohort A, cohort B, or cohort C. And I will know just by looking at a calendar and using a 6-day rotational math, I will know what days you're supposed to be in school and what days you're not. And that will be communicated to the families by the 26th of August. So you'll know by August 26th what group you're in, what cohort you're in, which you kind of already know because you know what year of high school you're in. And you'll know which days are for you. So we'll do a very simple thing. Like we'll actually take a calendar of the month of September and the month of October, and we'll actually type in which groups of students are coming in on those days so that you know what day is for you for at least the first 2 months of school, right? We're gonna up until the first new cycle, because when some families decide to come back to school after remote learning, if some parents do in November, this could change. So like, we're not going to set that calendar up for the whole year because as of November, it could be different. But on August 26th, you'll know what days you're coming to school. So families will know these are the days that my child has to get to school. And however you choose to do that, whether it's public transportation or you're going to take them yourself, you could work your schedule around that. And I know that that's really important for you to know because many of you have siblings who are also in school and their days might be different than yours. So I know it's important for families to be able to coordinate schedules around all of the hybrid learning. So by August 26th, we should be able to tell you, unless something crazy happens and they change something, but we should be able to tell you what days you'll be in school. By August 28th, the district's going to finalize our approvals. So they're going to say, okay, we already kind of tentatively approved your 3B. Now it's definite. It's good. Move forward. Great. So at that point, we're either going to resubmit based on new data, or if they say, it's not going to work anymore because your data has changed, or we'll start programming students. And by programming, that's the part where we actually take the students and plug them into the classes that they're going to have and what times of the days that's going to happen. So by August 28th, we should have a sense of what the actual school day is going to be in terms of what time it starts, what time it ends, how many periods there are, how long the periods are. Those are the things we should know by August 28th and should be able to start sharing with you. Also, August 28th is a deadline for putting COVID-specific information on our website, but you should know that we've already started doing that as of today. So our website has a specific section related to all reopening and COVID-19 related stuff. So you won't have to wait till August 28th for that because we've already started that. And right now, the goal, start date is September 10th for the first day of school. That's what the DOE has said. And if their plan is approved by the state, then that's what we'll be doing. So expect by around August 26th, we would be notifying you of what days you come to school, like you're in Group A, and these are the days Group A comes to school. And sometime around between August 28th and the 10th of September, we'll have the actual physical schedule put together, and you'll be able to see that. Okay, that's the timeline right now for those things. Ms. Lighty, do we have any questions about the timeline before I get into this good fun?
So some are very detailed, like,
Okay.
Are we going to have holiday breaks or vacations?
So the Department of Ed hasn't put out the calendar yet, so we won't know that until they do. And that's really all going to depend on if school starts on September 10th or if they decide to do a delayed opening. They're going to make all those decisions. So there's no calendar out yet. Like if you Google the Department of Ed calendar, it's just nothing there. So we don't have it either. It's not like they show it to us and don't show it to you.
Do the parents get the schedules only, or the students and the parents will get the schedules?
Everybody will get the schedules. We will make sure that the schedules go out to everybody.
Just to give you, just kind of moving forward, the 2 questions. What does the first 2 days of school look like? Students have to make adjustments. So I think that was one question. Another one is more about the safety of and the requirements for staff and teachers. So I'm assuming you're going to go through that next.
Let's talk about that now. Yeah. So let's get into that. What I'm about to share with you is in no way fully comprehensive of, because every day we keep getting new pieces of information about things that are going to be happening in school around safety and various protocols. But what I am going to go through with you right now are two slides, a couple of slides. Some of the things that we know for sure are going to be part of our physical safety plan. And I'm going to clarify some things for you about the Department of Education's tracking and tracing plan. I want to make sure that you understand it as best as possible. So it is our intention to do daily temperature checks, okay? So envision that we have two entrances that we're going to be utilizing. We talk about social distancing during entry, passing, and dismissal. We're talking about two entrances. We have a front entrance, we have a side entrance. On any given day, I don't expect there to be more than 120 to 125 students. When we think about the basic attendance, probably talking about 60 students coming in each door. And we have a lot of room outside to social distance for that. And I feel like we can get 60 kids into the building in 10 to 15 minutes. So it's pretty quick. And we will start scanning temperatures like as soon as they start lining up at the door. We'll have people outside to keep everybody socially distant, reminding everybody about their masks, checking temperatures, getting everybody ready for very quick scanning to come through so that they can start making their way to the classrooms. We're looking at 10 to 12 students in each classroom. We have very nice sized classrooms at Grady. Our classrooms are pretty large. So 10 to 12 students, 6 feet apart is not much of a problem. We also have a lot of classrooms. So I was able to be pretty selective in which ones we're going to use and which ones we're not. We are looking at a minimal passing situation, meaning that core subjects will take place in the same room for all periods except CTE, lunch, and phys ed. I should add that in after the fact. So I know that's not easy. And I know sitting in one place for a long time is hard, but it's not like it's going to be 5 hours sitting in one place, because you're going to get to go to a different room for CTE, different room for phys ed, and hopefully a different room for lunch. Hopefully, if not, at least there'll be a break there. We will have protocols in place for students who really need to get outside and take that mask off. Very tight protocols, so there's not a lot of congregating and walking around. But the purpose of cohorting students and creating blocks is to minimize passing, because I've had multiple meetings with our custodial staff, and I can tell you they are an incredible group of men who run this building, and Miss Janine, their secretary. They just cannot sanitize every room between classes if we ran a regular bell schedule with passing to different rooms. It just can't be done. It's not possible to sanitize 30 rooms in 5 minutes between passing. They just can't do it. So, some schools may try it. They'll let the students wipe down their own desks. I don't really feel comfortable with that. And I also feel that it would impact tracking and tracing in a way that would not be beneficial to everybody involved. So there will be minimal passing, core subjects taking place in the same room for all periods except for CTE and phys ed and lunch. We are aiming for a 100% mask policy, meaning that everybody wears a mask all the time. I know that's also not going to be easy, but we're going to work together to make it happen. Okay, and we won't be escalating any situations when students are refusing to wear the mask. We'll take them aside and we will reason with them. But the chancellor has said that anybody who repeatedly can't wear the mask may have to switch to remote learning, and that'll be a conversation with the family. I know that's going to be hard. I know wearing a mask all day is going to be hard. So when I go to the building now, I wear my mask all day because I want to get used to it and I want to feel how everybody else is going to feel. And, it's not easy, but we have to do it. We will have masks available for students. We will have PPE available. I would recommend, if there's a mask that your child prefers, purchase it for them, because the ones that we're going to have are going to be, your traditional blue surgical masks that are effective. But, some kids want to wear something cotton, and, we may have some other alternatives, like we are purchasing Grady High School cotton masks. but every student would really only get 1 or 2 of those. But we would have blue surgical masks available at all times for students. And again, as I said, it's not going to be easy to wear the mask all day. I know that's a big concern parents have, but we have to wear the mask all day. It is what it is. So that's the rule, and we're keeping each other safe, and we have to wear the mask. We're going to have rubber gloves available. They won't be mandatory for students to wear rubber gloves all the time, but any student who really feels like they want to wear rubber gloves and makes them feel better, we will have those available for them. You know, if you want your child to wear rubber gloves, we'll have them. The DOE suggests grab and go meals when possible. I already told you my feelings about that. So we're going to try to do something a little different there, as long as it's safe. And if it's not safe, then it would be grab and go. We are going to try to program, but again, I don't know if we can do this yet because we're waiting on a DOE policy on teacher schedules. We want to try to do back-to-back classes with some little breaks to allow for earlier dismissal and less opportunity for congregation. If we can block the teachers' lunch periods and preps at the end of the day, we could probably do an earlier release for students. But again, that's something I would like to do. I don't know if it's going to happen, but that's something we would like to do. I went to the building. All of the rooms now have hospital grade MERV 13 filters. Those are the types of filters they use in a hospital to filter out any types of, they're the filters that have been deemed the appropriate ones to filter out COVID-19. So every single one of the filters in the whole building has been changed as of now to a hospital grade MERV 13 filter. I reviewed it all myself the other day. Right now, I'm gonna unfortunately, sadly say that it's likely that we may not use the air conditioning units. And that's because we have not gotten clearance that they are safe. If we get clearance that they're safe and we're comfortable with that clearance, by all means, we'll use the air conditioning units. But as of right now, we're aiming for windows to be open to allow for fresh air. I went into the building last week and evaluated all the windows, and every room on every floor has operational windows, and the big windows, they open from the top. They open not all the way from the bottom because of safety, but they open all the way from the top. And when the windows are all open, there's a very nice breeze in the room. I'm not going to say it's cool, but there's a breeze. Bathrooms are going to be stocked throughout the day and cleaned frequently. Our custodians will be doing that all throughout the day. It is our goal to only allow 1 person in the bathroom at a time. So that's what we're planning on, 1 person in the bathroom at a time, and we plan on having multiple bathrooms open so that we're able to do that. That will also depend on how many school aides I have and some other support staff, because the bathrooms have to be monitored, and I mentioned earlier that we were a little short-staffed in that area. So we're going to try to open up multiple bathrooms, and the goal is only 1 person in the bathroom at a time. It's going to be 1 person in the bathroom at a time, regardless of how many bathrooms we have open. But hopefully be multiple bathrooms, 1 person at a time. Custodians will be around the building throughout the day, cleaning high-touch surfaces. We're talking about doorknobs. We're talking about staircase railings, the keys on the elevator. I mean, just various things that people touch throughout the day are going to be surface cleaned all throughout the day. Like custodians will be walking around with spray bottle all day long. We have 40 plus hand sanitizer dispensers that are being delivered to the building, and they're going to be in various places throughout the building. So those are like those dispensers that you see when you go into the store. You put your hand under it, some hand sanitizer goes into your hand, and you sanitize your hands. There'll be at least 40 of those around the building. I'm going to show you a picture after that. We have purchased desk shields for students. For every student desk, I purchased 400 of them. I'm hoping that they'll be in by September. They told me they should be. They're not in yet. And the custodians will be nightly cleaning with electrostatic sprayers. Those are those same sprayers that they're using on the New York City subway system. And there are 3 of them in the building right now. And they will be using them every night to sanitize the entire building. They'll be using electrostatic sprayers in the entire building. Unfortunately, it would just not be feasible for them to do that between classes, which is why we want to minimize passing as much as possible. Ms. Lighty, I know there's questions.
There are tons. So let's start with our teachers and staff and students required to take COVID-19 tests before starting school.
So the Department of Ed has not put out their full guidance on that as of yet. Right now, they are suggesting that students and staff get tested 7 days prior to the start of the school year. And they are suggesting that individuals get tested at least once every 30 days. Suggested. They have not mandated that at this point. These are suggestions, but that's some guidance we're still waiting on at this point.
If there is a suspected case, what does the quarantine phase look like? How will parents
I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a whole slide on that.
Okay, let me come back to that. They asked, do you know what type of thermometer will be used? Handheld, electronic face scan, ear?
The one that looks like a little handheld thing that they put up close to your forehead, and it
The no contact one.
the no contact one, right? You hold in your hand and you put it up to somebody's, not all the way to their head, and it tells you the number. The same one that you probably have gotten used a couple of times when you've gone into places now, like that make you use it.
Are face shields allowed, and
Yes.
are they an alternative for masks in school?
As of right now, I don't believe they're an alternative for masks, but you can certainly utilize one in addition to your mask. But I'm going to make a note of that.
Will water fountains be turned on?
On was the question, or off?
Will water fountains be turned, off?
I'm not sure of that yet. Certainly they won't be, nobody will be putting their mouth on the water fountain, I can tell you that, but I'm not sure if they're going to be turned off.
If teachers are passing instead of students, will students be left unsupervised in classrooms during teacher passing?
So we're working on how we're going to monitor in the hallways. What I'm planning on doing right now is we have deans who will walk up and down the hallway in the rooms while the teachers are passing. But I would like to have multiple people doing that so that there's very minimal chance of students being unsupervised in the rooms. No one's sitting in a room unsupervised for a long time. That's not happening. So they may not have somebody physically in the room with them, but there'll be definitely some people walking around making sure that there's no nonsense going on in the classroom.
No more questions.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, so we these are the desk shields, something to this effect. They might be slightly different than ones that we ordered, but you'll notice, I know this is the actual ad. You would think they would make it a little bit more clear, but you'll notice that the shields have sides, 2 sides, and a front. They're 2 feet tall, and they Velcro to the desks. And we have 400 of those, which should be more than sufficient to be on every student's desk throughout the school day. Okay, so we did purchase those already, and they are on their way. That's us all wearing our masks, and of course we'll all be smiling under our masks, even though we may not be able to see it. Although I think we've noticed now, like, that you can kind of tell when a person's smiling when they're wearing their mask. You see it in their eyes. So we'll all be smiling under our masks.
There's a question, Tara, about sanitation.
Go ahead.
How were the desk shields sanitized?
They will be sanitized at the end of the day with the electrostatic sprayers, because they'll be in the room. So those, as it was explained to me, when those sprayers are used to spray the room, the cleaner literally physically attaches itself to every surface in the room. So that's how they're going to be sanitized. And they're only going to be used by the same, like when you're there for your 2 days, right? No one else is going in your room other than your group. So that's another reason why we're minimizing passing, because we don't want to have to sanitize the shields before everybody comes into the room. It's just not feasible. So for the 2 days that you're there, the only person who's going to be in front of your shield is you. And the next 2 days, when somebody else is in that room, they will have been cleaned with the electrostatic spray the night before. It's also going to be cleaned every night. So, I mean, in between the 2 days that you're there, it's going to be cleaned also.
Do you know if Grady's using hospital grade cleaning material, i.e. Varex 256?
I don't know that. Can you spell that for me, Miss Lightsey?
VIREX 256.
I have been told that the cleaning supplies that we're using are the ones that have been recommended by the Department of Health. I will clarify if it is specifically that cleaner.
And no more questions.
Okay. All right. So this is, you've probably seen this already. This is not something I typed up. This is directly from the Department of Health, and it's been all over the news since the chancellor and the mayor released it. This is the plan for quarantining. So I'm just going to define a few things. There are a variety of scenarios that could happen, right? We could have one confirmed case in the school. There could be two cases that are linked together in the same classroom. Remember that groups are traveling together for the most part, except for their shop classes, right? Because they may go to different shop rooms, but they're still traveling together at the same time. There could be two cases linked together in the school, but in different classrooms. There are probably 100 more scenarios in this, but these are the ones that they've put out. There could be at least two cases linked together by circumstances outside of the school, meaning like, we have no idea, has nothing to do with the school, but two people have confirmed cases. There could be at least two cases that are not linked. They're confirmed again from the outside, not really sure how it happened, but two people have told us that they're confirmed in a specific time frame. And then there could be a link that's unable to be determined, like two people have it and we have no idea how they got it and whatever. So what they're telling us is that if there's one confirmed case, that the classroom is going to remain closed for 14 days. And students and staff who've been in close contact would stay 14 days. Now, classroom most likely refers to cohort, okay? Meaning that if I am in group A and I am in the school for, Monday and Tuesday, and somebody from my group has confirmed COVID, then my group will not come back for 14 days. By group, it means everybody in the group, okay? I mean, even if we were in different rooms, because remember, we're gonna have lunch, possibly, we're gonna have gym, we're gonna go to shop, we're gonna walk in the hallways just to those one or two places. So one confirmed case leads to a closure of that cohort for 14 days. Just that cohort, that means group B and C still come back because they're not part of that group and they were not exposed to that group. Again, if it's two cases, but same group, right? Two people in group A have confirmed cases, same situation. They quarantine for 14 days. They don't come back for 14 days. And they do remote learning during that time. So they're not quarantining and not getting learning. That's why I want the remote learning 6-day cycle to be exactly the same for the students who are blended and the students who are remote. So if the students who are blended become students remote, they seamlessly move right into the same unit of instruction that they were doing when they became remote. Okay, that's another reason why I want to do the instruction that way. If we have two cases in the building in different classrooms, again, the same thing. I'm sorry, I'm incorrect. Then we close the whole school, okay? So meaning that there are two cases in two different groups, two different classrooms. So group A has a case, group B has a case. The whole school closes for 14 days, okay? And then the same thing happens for all of these other scenarios. The school closes for 14 days. Now, I want to be very clear. This confirmed is what we're talking about. If, Miss Matone, somebody calls Miss Matone up, somebody comes in Miss Matone's office and says, did you see that Jeremiah wasn't in school today? He has COVID. Okay, well, nobody told us that Jeremiah has COVID. Miss Matone's gonna call Jeremiah's mother and she's gonna say, well, Jeremiah doesn't have COVID, he's just not feeling good, right? That is not a confirmed case. Jeremiah might have COVID, okay? We don't know if he has COVID. That's not a confirmed case, nobody's quarantining. But there's gonna be a lot of hysteria, I can tell you that, because I'm gonna get 100 phone calls saying, we heard that somebody in group A has COVID. So I promise you, the second somebody tells me they have a confirmed case of COVID, you will be getting a call knowing that school's closed the next day. Okay, I will not be waiting to tell you this. But if somebody tells you that they heard this, but you didn't hear it from me, that means it's probably not true. Okay, or it may be true and it's not confirmed. So I really want to be clear that quarantine is not going to be we are not going to be told to quarantine unless a case is confirmed, okay? And that would mean that confirmed means that somebody went and got tested, and they confirmed the case is COVID, and we quarantine for 14 days. If we don't know that it's confirmed and somebody just doesn't feel good and they stay home and they don't get tested, I mean, that's an uncertainty that I really can't do anything about. And I'm just being very honest with you. I'm hoping that, you know, we've always been a very close-knit community at Grady, and I'm hoping that if anybody doesn't feel well and they suspect that they have COVID, that they will go be tested and they will let us know in a timely fashion so that we can quarantine the group. I mean, one of the positive things is that, remember, you're in a 6-day cycle. So if you're in school for 2 days and, you know, we find out, you know, even that afternoon or the next day, you're already not due back for 6 days. So you may not have even been exposed. And there is that kind of a margin of error time frame for notifying everybody and going on a quarantine for 14 days. So it's not like, you know, oh my goodness, someone has COVID and now I'm supposed to come back into the school tomorrow and I didn't know about it. Like, you're probably not coming back tomorrow. You're probably not coming back for 6 days, maybe 8 days if the weekend is involved. So that's what the Department of Ed is talking about when they talk about quarantining a classroom. A classroom really means a group, because we're all in the building together for group A for those 2 days, and that would most likely be close contact, and that would most likely mean a quarantine for everybody in that group or classroom, as they call it. And again, this is all based on confirmed cases, and you know what, there could be times where kids say things. And of course, if somebody goes in Miss Matone's office and says, you know, student A we think the student, we're going to follow up. And we're going to find out. And if that's the case, we're going to support the family in getting tested and helping them find the closest testing location so that we could all work together to be safe. And that's something that we're going to do. So I just want to be clear about what a classroom means and what a confirmed case means. A confirmed case doesn't mean that mom calls me up and says, you know, my son has a fever and I think he might have COVID. That's not a confirmed case. That's a suspected case, and that will not allow for a quarantine. Ms. Lightsey, questions?
All right, so someone asked, and I'm assuming a student, we need to test negative to be able to go to school, correct?
Correct. So the most recent notification that I received, which was yesterday, is that so the confirmed case is what gets us on a quarantine, right? And once the case is confirmed, obviously that student has to come back to school. We want that student to come back to school at some point. They have to test negative before coming back or have clearance from a doctor. So, I mean, I don't anticipate many doctors will give clearance unless the person tests negative. So I'm going to say, for all intents and purposes, in order to come back to school after a confirmed case, you would have to test negative.
If a teacher tests positive, is it assumed that they expose all students in their class from all 3 cohorts?
So if a teacher tests positive, we would immediately notify the Department of Health and the superintendent, and they would be asking me a series of questions about, you know, who that student worked with. Remember that teachers are moving from classroom to classroom, right, within a certain group. And so I'm going to say it's likely that would be a case of a 14-day quarantine of the classroom, meaning the whole group.
What if someone has COVID but doesn't show the symptoms? Wouldn't that spread?
Yeah, that's why we have to make sure we wear our masks all the time, like we're being asked to do, and we have to hand sanitize and wash our hands and follow all of the CDC guidelines and social distance, all the guidelines for being safe, because we don't know. Someone could be asymptomatic, yes.
What if someone doesn't send results or didn't get tested at all?
If someone doesn't get tested at all, as far as we know, there's no confirmed case, and business as usual continues in school.
If someone doesn't come to school because they are not feeling well, are they required to have a doctor's note to return? Will they be required to take a test to return?
So if somebody's absent from school because they're sick, I mean, remember, a lot of what we're talking about is reliant on parents notifying us that their child is sick. When students are sick, we'll be making calls when students not in school. But, you know, it's all reliant on families being open and communicating with us that their child is sick. If we're on the phone and you tell me, or Miss Matona, Miss Lighty, or anybody, the staff in the school, that your child is home with, any types of symptoms that are related to COVID, we're certainly going to strongly encourage you to go get tested, because if you choose not to go get tested, I mean, I can't drag you to get tested, but, I also, my hands are tied at that point. I also can't send a phone blast out to parents saying that I received a phone call from a parent that their child is sick and they won't go get tested. I mean, that's not something I can do. So I'm going to say that if you're sick, we all have to and we're going to do in-person blended learning, that we all have to make a collective agreement that if we're not feeling good, that we go get tested. And if you need support in finding out where to do that, we will absolutely be able to support you in that way. But we all have to band together and collectively agree that if we're not feeling good, we stay home, we get tested, and we notify the school, because this will only work if that happens.
It's another question says, are schools and students getting priority for receiving test results?
Yes,
and the note was that's been an issue for getting results in a timely manner.
So we have been told that there are 34 testing locations throughout the city that we will have all listed on a little packet that we will be putting out to everybody, of testing locations that are supposed to give a 24 to 48 hour turnaround for testing of any staff or student of a New York City public school. So that's what we're being told, that that's going to be the case. Now, if you don't go to some place other than those 34 places, I mean, we can't promise any type of, and I'm hoping that these 34 places really are able to handle the load. So, but we would be strongly suggesting that you go to one of those locations so that the testing turnaround could be very quick. I'm just making a note to send out the locations.
Yeah. I'm not really sure, Janae, this question. You said if they refuse to get tested, will you still come to school? Is that like, are you talking to everyone on the chat, or are you asking a question specific to Ms. Montalbano?
So here's what I'm going to say. If somebody's not feeling good, right, there are a couple things that are going to happen, right? If someone's not feeling good, what they're supposed to do is stay home, let us know they're not feeling good, and go get tested. That's what they're supposed to do, right? If they don't do that and they still come to school, we're going to be taking their temperature, right? And and if somebody looks like they're not feeling good, we're going to be bringing them into an isolation room. If they come to school and they look like they're fine and they don't have a temperature, then they're going to be in school with symptoms that we don't see. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation that is going on. So like I said, we have to collectively agree that if we're choosing blended learning, that we have an ethical and moral responsibility to get tested if we're sick, or to stay home for 14 days and quarantine so that nobody else gets sick. I mean, that's really on us as people to make that decision. And if you can't trust that that's going to happen, then you make the decision that's best for you and your family.
There are no more questions.
There's no more questions? Okay.
Wait, something just came up.
Yeah, I'm not, don't worry, I'm not hanging up yet because I know the questions are popping up. So
if you're homesick, do you still have to do remote learning?
Yeah, well, so here's right. So if you're feeling well enough, right, you would still do remote learning. If not, you would be just like when you're sick and you didn't come to school. So obviously, if you're home and you're very ill, you won't be doing remote learning. But if you're home and you're feeling okay, then yes, you would try to do your remote learning. If you're home quarantined for 14 days because somebody else had COVID, but you don't, you're absolutely doing remote learning.
There's a lag in turnaround time on receiving results. With that being said, doesn't that nullify the basis of the test and put everyone at risk? I know you said there are 34 sites, but there have been cases of people getting results back 10 days later.
So this, of course, is the thing that I can't make a promise about, right? I can't promise you that someone is going to take their child to be tested in a timely fashion, to one of the sites that are supposed to give us a 24-hour turnaround and let us know in that time frame so that we can let you know. I mean, that's just the nature of reality. I can tell you what we should be doing. I can tell you what we're asking you to do, what we want you to do, what we hope you'll do. But if it doesn't happen, then the answer is yes, we would all be at risk.
A student asked if you have like a doctor's appointment or something on the day you're supposed to be in school, will like how will they access the work? Will the teachers send the work to them that day? How will they be able to get that work?
I'll make a note of that. I mean, certainly, I mean, remember that what I talked about, the 6-day unit, right? It's a 6-day unit. So like the in-class teacher and imagine like when we did Google Classroom, the in-person teacher and the remote learning teacher would be sharing that classroom. So the work would be there anyway, because there's already students there who are only doing remote learning every day. So the work should be there.
Well, when will the cohort schedules? Oh, go ahead.
Just like we do now when we have regular school, if you're absent, I mean, you by all means, you can shoot your teacher an email and say, listen, I'm out today. I have doctor's, appointment. I'm not going to be in. Can you email me the work? And the teachers will do that for you.
When will the cohort schedules be distributed? Are there school supply lists?
We don't have a school supply list as of yet. Let me go back. Sorry. Let me go down. We don't have a school supply list as of yet, but getting back to the tentative timeline, we're looking at August 26th as the target date of notifying parents of the in-person schedule, meaning these are the days of attendance that you'll be in school. And we're looking at somewhere between August 28th and September 10th of having actual schedules of what your classes are. But we're going to try to hit that August 26th date, because we know that many parents have multiple children who are on different schedules, and I know that you need to coordinate that. So we want to make sure that you get that in a timely fashion. I know the most important thing at that time frame is what days will my child not be home, and that that could have implications for the rest of your family and for your own work schedule. So we're going to make sure that we send that out no later than the tentative date, unless of course something changes and we have to do something different, then that would change. But the goal is that we would have that to you by the August 26th deadline.
Sorry. So are all the students and staff required to turn in test results the week before school starts?
So as of right now, there has not been there hasn't been a mandate that says anybody has to be tested. Right now, the Department of Ed is suggesting, they're strongly encouraging all staff and students to get tested 7 days prior to the start of school. So that gives enough turnaround for test results. We will not ask you if you were tested, and will not ask you for your results. That's a violation of HIPAA law. But the DOE hasn't yet mandated that everybody get tested 7 days before school, but they're strongly encouraging that everybody gets tested before school starts, so that there are no cases of COVID like right off the bat.
Has there been a conversation for schools to have in-house testing stations for students and teachers only?
As of right now, they have not given us any indication that they'll be doing in-school testing. Right now, they're relying on the 34 test sites that are supposed to be giving priority to school staff and students.
As of now, there are no additional questions.
Okay. I'll give it a minute because I know there will be. At this point, I mean, even if someone wants to raise their hand and ask a question, that's fine too. I know everybody can see my screen. Do you see only my PowerPoint slides, or do you also see where I'm looking at you only see the PowerPoint?
Just see your PowerPoint and you. Like
so
a
you
small
don't see
picture of you.
Oh, so you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna, now do you see what my whole screen looks like?
Mm-hmm. I see the insert, like I see the PowerPoint background, yeah.
So
someone has a question.
If everybody clicks on the little chat, right? They
Oh, no,
can.
you won't, when you're sharing your screen, they
Oh,
can't see that
they
part,
can't
that
see
portion.
that? Oh, because they could raise
So
their
I
hand.
would, I
Right.
would say if you would like, you can use the chat. A lot of people have been using the chat. If you
Okay,
would
that's
like to unmute
fine. We
yourself for a
can-
question, feel free. I'm sure we could figure out a way to do this
Yeah,
in an
we can
orderly
do
way.
that.
Someone did
You can
ask,
still
are
see
those,
my face when I have my
yeah,
PowerPoint up? Oh, okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah.
So yeah, let's do that. Then if you have a question, let's unmute yourself and please
Are
ask
those
it. And
test sites available? So do you
I'm
know
gonna,
the test sites?
I believe I received just some information today, and there, it said 34 test sites, and there was a hyperlink. So I'm gonna click it and see. The last time I clicked it, it brought me to, it said information forthcoming. But as soon, if it's available, I will send it out. I already made a note of that. I get stuff all day. Like I got emails right before we started this meeting. So
Sorry, I have some additional coworkers right now.
that's okay. We like them. We like- Questions?
What is Pupil Path? Pupil Path.
Oh, okay. Pupil Path is the online grading system that we use for teachers to assign your grades and to show you how you're doing and to communicate with parents and students. Mr. Gerber actually did a Pupil Path Zoom meeting recently, but he also posted that meeting on the Grady website. So if you actually go on to look at it, he did a whole presentation about what Pupil Path is and what it does. So you can watch that and see even more than what I'm going to tell you right now. But it's our online grading system.
Are
It's
you
also the
following?
system that we use
Okay.
to send emails and messages in addition to our phone blasts. So we really want you to be set up for it. You'll be getting login information about that soon as we're able to pull up your information and put it out like that.
Are you following the normal DOE schedule for vacations?
We don't know yet because the DOE hasn't put out their calendar, and we're suspecting the reason they haven't put out their calendar yet is because they don't know totally for sure if September 10th is going to be the actual start date and whether or not they're going to pull days from vacations to do a delayed opening. They haven't put the calendar out yet. We suspect that's the reason. So hopefully we'll follow regular vacation schedules, but we just don't know.
So someone said, is there anything else that you're going to address on the agenda? Sorry.
No, I covered the whole agenda. That was the whole agenda. We're going to be posting this entire meeting as well as the PowerPoint on our Grady website. We've been recording this whole session, so you'll be able to watch it again. And of course, you know, we're always available. Miss Matone put her email and her phone number in the chat. I'm actually going to do the same thing right now. I'm going to put my email in the chat. That way, oh, I don't know why I'm privately messaging someone. Oh, everyone. Okay. Why am I privately
I'll also
messaging?
add my, it's probably because whoever sent you a private message, then you have to change that.
Oh, okay.
Message everyone. I'll put yours, Sarah.
Yeah, all right. Put mine in there. Okay. Yeah, my email can go in there also. All our email addresses are also on the Grady website. And the Grady chat function on the website gets answered by Miss Matone and myself. So should you actually click on one of those, you would be getting one of us. Whichever one of us gets it first. You're muted, Miss Matone. Miss Lighty,
Unless
any
the
other?
two of us get it at the same time and we're both
So
answering.
today we double teamed someone today. We were like getting two answers at the same time. They were like, "What's going on here?" Miss Lighty, any more questions?
No questions. A lot of people are saying great, very informative. Thank you for recording.
No.
Title and role. Okay, so we'll reintroduce. So I'm Nightingale Lightsey. I'm the assistant principal of guidance. Marcel, I'm talking now. I'm the assistant principal of guidance and special education.
I'm Miss Matone, parent coordinator.
I'm Miss Montalbano, the principal. If any Grady staff wants to pop up and say who you are, that's great too, because I know there's a lot of staff in here right now.
I'm Sanford Hirsch. I'm a social studies teacher and part-time dean.
I'm Mr. Santiago. I'm one of the deans of Grady High School and also CTE teacher.
I'm Pam Hendricks. I am one of the math teachers.
Okay, nobody else wants to share. That's okay.
Montalbano, real quick question. So someone's asking, do you know how many thermometers we will have at school? And they're only asking because they had returned to work. And the ones indicated were like a little faulty. So they were just curious if you knew how many you would have.
We don't know how many we're getting, but I'm going to tell you right now, if we don't have enough, I'll be purchasing more because I want to make sure that we have them and that we have enough. We're going to need at least a couple to get the kids in the building fast so they can get to class. And the Department of Ed has stated that they're going to be putting some sort of a procedure in place to support giving thermometers to families that need them. So I'm not exactly sure how they're gonna, how that distribution is gonna work, but if they haven't given us enough, then I'll make sure I buy some more. But they haven't told us how many we're getting.
We don't have any more questions. Some of the students are saying hi to us, and some of the staff saying they will purchase some thermometers if they can. And everyone's saying thank you for a thorough presentation. Looking forward to sending their son back safely.
I can actually see the chat now. Hi, everybody.
Okay.
Now that I'm done with my presentation. Okay, obviously, of course, if you have any more questions, as always, feel free to send us some emails, whatever you need to do. And this won't be the last presentation because I'll be getting a lot more information as we get closer to the next deadline, that August 26th deadline. We should be running another meeting prior to that because, you know, the world seems to change overnight these days. So expect another meeting at least within the next 7 to 10 days. And if it's going to be new information, I'll tell you. And if it's not going to be new information, I won't. I'll tell you that also. And I'll try to do new information at the beginning for parents who sat through all of it already.
I have one quick question.
Yeah, please.
Just some parents receive like their students' grades on pupil pass. Fine, I know my son passed, but then they also receive letters that said they failed. I know I got a lot of recordings, which is great because I think I come home and that's the only way I hear what's going on at my home. So I keep it. Like Miss Montone is on there blowing up my phone. It was like 20 messages a day.
So let me tell you how that happened. Every year when we program for summer school, all we do is we enter the students whose promotion is in doubt. This year, the Department of Ed asked us to load the entire school into the system, and they promised us that the whole school would not receive promotion and doubt letters. But not only did the whole school receive promotion and doubt letters, the whole city received promotion and doubt letters because every school got the same guidance on what to do. So tons of people got promotion and doubt letters for students who, and the letters said they had to go to summer school.
And I include our seniors as well.
Even there's graduating seniors. So, I mean, there was like a whole uproar. So yeah, that's why that happened. It happened everywhere. We spent like the whole first 2 weeks of summer school just calming people down, saying, no, don't worry, you don't have summer school. You did pass the classes.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah, so that was what happened there with that. It was crazy. Yes. Oh my God, it was great. Oh my God. All right, I guess it sounds like we answered all the questions. And again, like I said, if you come up with any more questions, feel free to reach out to us. And we'll also, just like we did this time, whenever the next meeting is, we'll be sending the phone calls, all the things that we usually do to make sure that you know more phone calls than you want to make sure you know that we're having another meeting. Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you to everybody. Have a great night. And, you know, thank you all for being here tonight and for spending this time with us. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. I'm going to stop the
Thank
recording.
you.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank
Have a good
you.
night.
Awesome presentation.